Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. Welcome to League of Women Voters forum tonight, our environmental forum on the impacts of climate change, especially the local impact of climate change. Do you think this is on? I can't hear. Is this working? So I'd like to welcome all of you. Thank you for being here. I want to thank our library, our wonderful librarians, Allie, Lisa, and how wonderful this is tonight. We will be live in person on Zoom, and they are putting this on Facebook Live, so it'll be recorded. So if you need to go back and get some fabulous information, you can go back. And if you want to write to your mothers about being here, they could watch it too. So our topic tonight is the impacts of climate change. As we all know, actually, we are quite protected from climate change in many respects. Being here in the Midwest, we're close to the Great Lakes. We are really fortunate people, but we are still feeling the effects of climate change as we speak. So we all know that climate change is happening. These terrible storms in California are proof, the hurricanes, the fires. We know that climate change is here. And as Barack Obama said, we are the first generation to feel the effects of climate change, and we may be the last generation to actually be able to do something about it. So that's why we're here tonight. Miss Kristina Murphy will be our first speaker, and she will be talking about the impacts of climate change. And then Miss Klee, who is from Kane County, will be talking about our new climate action implementation plan. So I wanted to give you the bad news and the good news. The bad news is, yes, climate change is here, and there's plenty to worry about. The good news is we can all do something about it today. So I'm going to ask Kristina Murphy, Miss Murphy, to come up.
Hi everyone, I'm Kristina Murphy, and I'm going to talk about the impacts of climate change tonight. I'm an atmosphere of science by education. I'm an atmospheric scientist by education, and I have worked in water resources engineering for over 20 years. I observed and recorded the weather conditions at O'Hare for nearly 14 years, and I'm a certified floodplain manager and a certified climate change professional. So the views that I'm expressing tonight are my own, and I will share my slides with everyone who wants them tomorrow. So I'm going to start with some history and some climate data to show how the climate is changing, then show you some projections for our region. Next, I will talk about climate change, how it's impacting our infrastructure, and finally talk about the health impacts and the ecosystem impacts. Climate change is large-scale changes in our atmosphere and ocean temperatures and circulation patterns, and they result in frequent extremes and changes in long-term averages. The greenhouse gas effect was discovered about 200 years ago. In 1861, Tyndall measured that different gases absorb heat differently. An article published in a 1912 newspaper stated that burning coal was increasing carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and would raise the Earth's temperature. Nearly all of today's climate scientists agree that humans are responsible for the current changes in our climate. Man-made climate change began with the Industrial Revolution, when humans started burning fossil fuels to heat and power our buildings and eventually our vehicles. This graph shows carbon dioxide measurements plotted with average global temperatures, showing a positive correlation. Our planet has already warmed more than 1 degree. Even if we stop burning coal, methane gas, and petroleum products tomorrow, our atmosphere will continue to warm from all the greenhouse gases we previously emitted. Gases remain in the air for many years before they break down. Here's a list of some greenhouse gases and how long they remain in the atmosphere and their warming potential. Global warming potential represents how different gases absorb heat at different rates. Methane retains 21 times the amount of carbon dioxide that Methane retains 21 times the amount of heat that carbon dioxide does. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, compiles temperature averages and computes normals. Normals are computed from 30 years of data. Each decade, they recompute those normals. We can see that we are much warmer now than any time since official record keeping began in the 1850s. Climate change is already happening. NOAA also tracks precipitation. We can see a similar trend with the climate becoming wetter. A warmer atmosphere holds more moisture. Think about the relative humidity on these cold days in comparison to a hot, humid summer day. For every degree Celsius, our atmosphere can hold 7% more water vapor. With climate projections of nearly 2 degrees Celsius, our atmosphere can hold 14% more water vapor. This is why we're seeing heavier rainfall becoming more frequent. Heavy rainfall is defined as 2 inches or more in one event. Zooming into Illinois, we see that we've experienced a greater number of heavy rainfall events occurring in the past 50 years. I don't know if this has a laser pointer, so right over here. Flooding occurs when the soil cannot absorb all the rain or when our sewers become full. We are already dealing with the effects of climate change. Northern Illinois has been impacted by flooding, which causes financial losses. I have listed some recent events and their damages. There's a different weather scenario that caused each of these events. The 1996 flooding, which you may remember because it was centered on Aurora, was caused by thunderstorms that persisted over the area for about 18 hours. In 2008, the remnants of Hurricane Ike dropped over 8 inches across the region. Illinois is not immune to drought either. Here I show the extended dry periods in late 2005 and mid-2012. Point out, right here and right here. So temperatures this month have been running above average, as shown in the departure column, right here. The normal average for January in Chicago is 24.5 degrees. As of Sunday, when I was putting this presentation together, our month is running above average by a total of 10.8 degrees. The fastest warming season here in Illinois is winter. Our average has already increased almost 4 degrees over the past 50 years. Warmer winters do not mean that we won't have the occasional Arctic outbreak or that we won't have snow. We may see a shift from snow to more rain events though in the winter. Warmer winters also increase the number of freeze-thaw days, which impacts our infrastructure. To limit future warming, we must aggressively reduce our emissions by switching to renewable energy and electrifying our buildings and vehicles. The plot on the right shows where our region's temperatures are headed if we continue burning fossil fuels or if we significantly cut our emissions. So we keep on the path we're going right now, we're going to be up here.
And if we
cut, we'll be down here. But there still will be warming either way, so we need to address that. Here are the temperature projections for the Midwest. These graphics on the left show mid-century, and these over here show late century. This top row shows a rapid reduction in our emissions. This bottom row shows business as usual or continued emissions. So when we look at right here, we're seeing about a 9-degree warming. Last year, the Climate Mapping for Resilience and Adaptation tool was released by the federal government. You can enter your address or county, and it will show you the climate projections for your location. Here are the temperature projections for Aurora, showing the number of days that will be 95 degrees or hotter in 2030. Oops, sorry. 2030, 2050, and 2085. So we go from less than 36 days a year to 39 days a year by the end of the century if we don't reduce our emissions. In terms of how our temperature will feel, It would be similar to northern Texas today. Here are the precipitation projections for the Midwest. The graphics on the left again are mid-century under the 2 emission scenarios, and those on the right are for late century. You can see that our precipitation will increase by about 10% by late century if we don't reduce our emissions, so right here. And here are the precipitation projections for Aurora. You can see that our precipitation increases from about 36 inches annually to about 39 inches if we continue with our current rate of emissions. So right up here. This plot shows our annual number of dry days changing from approximately 36 to 39 days by late century under continued emissions. So that means we'll be both wetter and drier at the same time.
Which is like the same chart.
No, it's actually different. You can go to the website and you can play around with it yourself, so you can see that. But that means more extreme weather is what we're seeing there. Let's talk about how temperature and rainfall changes impact our infrastructure. Aurora and other communities in Kane County source their drinking water from a mix of the Fox River and deep wells. It's not piped in from Lake Michigan. When we have prolonged dry periods, water supply may not meet our goals or our needs. With more rainfall, we see higher river flows and more river flooding and eroded shorelines. More rainfall also means more stormwater, more stormwater than our storm and sanitary sewers can handle, causing flooding. Sanitary sewer overflows and basement backups are more likely to occur during heavy rainfall. And nobody wants a flooded basement.
Reminds me of
1996, lots of flooded basements.
Heavy
Heavy rainfall may flood underpasses, wash out culverts, or overtop roads. And flooding issues are not cheap to fix. So increased days of freeze-thaw create wear and tear on bridge joints and road pavements. Pavement contains very small amounts of moisture and expand and contract with each freeze-thaw, causing potholes. We're very familiar with potholes at the moment. Water by freeze-thaw and may burst. Extreme heat can buckle our roads, like this. And last June, Ogden Avenue, where Aurora, Oswego, and Montgomery come together, experienced buckling from the heat, creating traffic tie-ups at rush hour and required expensive repairs. The infrastructure we build today lasts 25 to 100 years in the future, but engineers use past data to design infrastructure and do not take future temperatures or rainfall into account. So let's talk about the health impacts of climate change. Heat and flooding are already the leading causes of weather-related deaths. Now, a lot of these flooding deaths do come from hurricanes, but still. Without drastic cuts in our emissions, we will continue to see heat-related deaths. Do you all remember the 1995 heat wave that killed hundreds of people in Chicago?
Mm-hmm.
So extreme heat can cause heat exhaustion or heat stroke, especially in vulnerable populations, such as the elderly, infants, or outdoor workers. Increased precipitation can lead to drowning, mold exposure during flood cleanups, waterborne illnesses from raw sewage overflows, and emotional stress from the loss of their home and valuables. Increased temperatures and rainfall create conditions suitable for mosquitoes and ticks, leading to more cases of the diseases that they carry. Unhealthy air quality and increases in mold and pollens are a concern for those suffering from allergies and asthma. We've already experienced a northward shift in our plant hardiness zones and expect this trend to continue with warmer temperatures. We can see that here for how they've changed from 1990 to 2006, and then how they'll change under the emissions scenario by late century.
So they'll be able to live farther north.
Mm-hmm. So it means basically all the crops that they used to grow further south, we can grow further north, which is good, but that our soil moisture may be extremely wet to extremely dry, so we may have issues with our crop yields too, especially depending on when we get that rainfall or dryness, because farmers have a very regimented planting schedule, So if it's too wet when they need to plant, they can't get the plows in to plant, crops end up behind. If we have a very dry period and they have to keep irrigating, that's very expensive. That also stresses our water supplies. So the Midwest Regional Climate Center shared these chilling hours, this chart, and the departure from normal chart here last week on social media. I thought it was really interesting because I had never seen them before, so I wanted to share them with you tonight. Fruit-producing plants such as apples, peaches, strawberries require dormancy temperatures for certain amounts of time to have a productive growing season. We are about 500 hours of deficient right now. So I have an apple tree and a peach tree, and some years I get hundreds, and other years I get a handful, and I never really know why, other than I usually just blame my squirrels. So maybe this is actually the reason I should pay attention and correlate to that. So in summary, we must reduce our emissions to lessen the warming. We also must adapt to the impacts from climate change that we are already occurring or will occur in the future. And we must design our infrastructure to be resilient to the future climate. And thank you for listening. Like I said, I will share my slides with anyone if you want to email me, or I'll also put them on my LinkedIn page tomorrow. And if we have any questions right now, I think we have a few minutes to take them.
Any questions yet? Okay.
I was just wondering, I know that you said you've got both the increase in the amount of rain that's falling at one time and then the droughts.
Mm-hmm.
So why doesn't that balance out in terms of how dry the Mississippi River is this year? Because it's like you could practically walk across it.
Right, so the question is about the extreme dryness and wetness events and the Mississippi being so dry. So one thing with the Mississippi River, it is a huge watershed. It starts up in Minnesota and it drains, there's point, Rocky Mountains, Colorado area, eastwards all the way towards the Mid-Atlantic, what doesn't go to the Atlantic Ocean. So it's a really huge watershed. So if you think about the rainfall and the dryness across the entire watershed, it's going to be an average of all that by the time you get to the bottom of the river, right? So, some areas may actually, be drier, and then they get a bunch of rain south of that, and then that area is wetter. One of the things in 2011 that I worked on was flood insurance disaster declarations. And in Missouri, they both had, in the same month, a drought declaration, and then they had a flood declaration. So it's kind of like, well, what's going on here? But they had the drought, and then what happened was they didn't even get any rain, but upstream of them got rain, and the water came basically shooting down and then flooded all their properties next to the river. So you can have that kind of situation, as well as, you think about rainfalls, like 2 inches of rain. Well, 2 inches of rain over the course of a month is not a lot. Over a week, not really still a lot. Over a day, okay. But think about 2 inches of rain in an hour or 2 hours. That's a lot of rainfall. So it just depends on that time frame where you're getting that rain as well, not as the amount. That answers the question.
You said that one of the answers to the emission problem would be to get more electric vehicles, use more electricity to generate whatever we need. But aren't the electric power plants, noted emissions givers?
Yes, great question. So the question is about using more electricity, and aren't the power plants that generate electricity creating emissions? And that is very true. Our current power plants are burning coal and methane gas, so they are creating a lot of emissions. In fact, some of Prairie State Energy Campus in Southern Illinois is actually one of the top 10 emitters in the country. And they supply electricity to the surrounding states as well as communities here in Illinois. But the grid is getting greener. We're adding community solar, we're adding wind power, you see these big wind farms, and all that's coming off the grid, as well as, you and I are adding solar panels to our roof, and then we are being able to offset our energy with renewable energy whenever we can. And we do expect the grid will continue to get greener, and especially as we add more and more wind and solar.
Okay, Wendy, would you like to make your announcement now? Since about League of Women Voters would like to put in a little announcement. So while we're between our speakers, we could.
Okay, thank you. We have welcome tonight. I'm Wendy Connell. I'm the Voter Services Chairperson for our local Aurora Area League. And we have information about the league over on the table, some business cards and some brochures. Thank you. And also there's a flyer there about the climate. We have some activities coming up. We have forums for our primary. Aurora is having a primary and Oswego is too, if you're a resident of Oswego. So we'll be doing this Aurora Aldermanic 6th Ward Forum on February 8th virtually, and everything is on our website. So if you grab either the brochure or the business card, you can go to our website and get all the details there with the links. And then on the following day, on February 9th, we'll be doing the forums for Oswego trustees and Oswego village president, the primaries for those. And then election primaries are on February 28th, if you live in the 6th Ward, if you're in Aurora. And then the general election is on April 4th, and our forums committee is doing a lot of forums coming up on March 6th, 7th, and 8th, all virtual. And those dates and candidates races will be on our website as well, but those are 3 dates for those. And this Saturday, we are having a winter gathering for league members. And if you are a league member or are interested in finding out more about the league, we would love to have you. We are going to meet right around the corner at El Tiro Restaurant, Galena, is that Galena, right? Galena and Stolt at 4 p.m. You can speak to Berta, who's right outside here doing voter registration for us tonight afterwards, and just let her know you want to come, and we would love to have you. So. And then we have another program coming up on March 21st right here. Do you want to just say what that is real quick, the name of it?
Yes, the title of that program.
Would you stand up?
Oh. The program is about money and politics. The title is Bought and Sold ? The Influence of Money in Representative Government. And that will start at 6:30. It will also be hybrid and recorded. So we invite you to come to that as well.
Okay, and that information is also on our website for March 21st, our next program. Thank you, Davis.
You're welcome. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Murphy, for your lovely speech. And now, here's Klee.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm just going to pull my presentation really quick. Okay. All right. Does everything look good? Yeah? Yeah. So quickly, I'll just do an introduction. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. The focus of that plan was on fleet and driving, grounds and roads, our purchasing department, facilities and workplace environment. So making all of those subjects more sustainable, the plan included a bunch of different objectives and action goals within those categories. So as you can imagine, most of those goals have been completed since 2013. And phase 2 of this plan was to extend those sustainability initiatives into the community and municipalities within Kane County. So last year, our Department of Environment and Water Resources at the county was discussing that this plan is in need of an update. So when that discussion came about, there was some regional climate action planning going on. The Metropolitan Mayors Caucus published a climate action plan for the Chicago region. I believe it was published in September of 2021. So we reviewed this plan. There was a ton of great information, and we thought it would be a great starting point for Kane County. However, the plan was very high level and included a ton of objectives and strategies for climate initiatives, but we weren't sure if this plan would be totally feasible for some Kane County municipalities. We weren't sure if everyone would be comfortable with adapting a plan like this. You can see I have a photo of the county on the right-hand side. So Kane County is really unique in that we have a lot of populated cities, and we also have a lot of rural municipalities. And all of those communities are going to have very different needs when it comes to sustainability. But of course, sustainability and climate issues are going to intersect with everyone in their lives. So understanding where each of our municipalities are interested in pursuing climate initiatives and also what kind of climate challenges each of them individually are facing is something that we want to include within this plan. So the hope is, and kind of the vision for the plan right now, is to personalize, use that Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus Climate Action Plan framework and personalize it for Kane County municipalities. We'd like to offer a toolkit with an a la carte selection of climate action goals and objectives. So kind of like a checklist that, say, a staff person can look through and kind of pick and choose which objectives might work for them. We want to create resources such as model ordinances, how-to guides for programs, and more easily navigatable online platform. So putting all of these resources into an online platform and database where someone can go and say, I'm looking for an ordinance on a solar project, or a resolution on a solar project, or an ordinance on green energy, that type of thing. And we can point them to a website online where all that information will be. We also would like to incorporate implementation into the plan. So we don't just want this to be a plan that's going to sit on the shelves of the county and not really get done. We want action to be a part of the plan as well. The hope is that this plan will be easily implemented by a variety of different Kane County municipalities. So kind of an overview of what the plan will include in terms of strategies and objectives. The Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus includes climate mitigation and climate adaptation strategies. So we kind of ran with those different mitigation and adaptation strategies and personalized a couple of them. So reducing emissions is a top runner, decarbonizing energy sources and transportation, optimizing building energy, implementing clean energy policy, reducing vehicle miles traveled, sustaining ecosystems to sequester carbon, and something that we added in that wasn't in the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus plan was the agricultural greenhouse gas contribution. Kane County has over 50% land use as agriculture, and when we were doing research to look around throughout the Midwest to see what are other local governments, what are other counties doing for their climate action goals and efforts, we discovered a county plan in Wisconsin for Dane County. And they had a focus on agriculture, and there was a lot of really interesting information about how agriculture, how farming, how livestock, and different mechanisms and practices for each farmer can contribute to greenhouse gas emissions. And when we were kind of internally discussing if we had any data on that, it didn't seem as though the county did. So that's something that we're going to be focusing on with this plan. We'd like to know more. And the climate adaptation strategies and objectives, the ones that we're planning to include will be engaging and educating communities about climate resilience and adaptation, incorporating equity and inclusion into climate adaptation, building capacity for more resilient communities, enacting plans and policies focused on adaptation and resilience, and adapting operations and investments for future climate conditions. So I do also want to reiterate that incorporating equity and inclusion into this climate plan is definitely something on the forefront of our minds. In a lot of the discussions that we've been having lately about climate impacts and climate change that's affecting communities that are disadvantaged, disproportionate, and low income. So we really want to get those perspectives involved with this climate action plan and make sure that those voices are heard and incorporated into the plan. Also, we are working with, I forgot to mention, we are working with a consultant, Pale Blue Dot. So the county went out to bid for a consultant to work on this plan, I believe at the end of last year, sometime in October of 2022. And the contract that was awarded was with the consulting company Pale Blue Dot. They are located in Minnesota, and they have a great range of experience in climate action planning. We're really excited to work with them, and we've had a lot of great discussion and great ideas going on in the first couple of meetings. But just a kind of timeline for what the plan is going to look like. Currently, Pale Blue Dot is doing an existing conditions assessment and greenhouse gas inventory for the county. There is regional data on the greenhouse gas inventory for the Chicago region published by CMAP, Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, and they just did an update for 2019 data. So the county is going to be using that data to do some greenhouse gas inventory modeling and kind of analyze where's the county at right now, what is the baseline, and what kind of scenarios can we imagine, and what type of action and goals can we pursue based on that data. So currently, that's the existing conditions assessment is going on, and that'll be completed sometime in March, we hope. So next, after that, and what we're kind of leading into right now and getting prepared for is community engagement. So we really would like to engage with the community, with residents, and with our municipalities in Kane County. This plan, we would like the plan to be a tool for our residents, for local organizations, for municipalities, and we really want to engage with everyone and understand opinions and perspectives of a wide range of stakeholders. We can't do that without community engagement. So two of the main ways that we're planning to do that is we have a survey that we're putting out to the public to gather kind of some general input and data based on where residents have opinions on climate issues and different subjects such as like transportation, recycling, climate change in general, just to gather some preliminary data. And then we're also going to be doing listening sessions that will kind of act as a town hall meeting. So there'll be a couple of them, and they'll be hosted throughout the county. And what those will look like is our consultant will be giving a brief overview of the data that they've collected, summarize that data into kind of a general analysis. We'll present that data to the public, and we'll kind of get some feedback and have time for open discussion and see what the public thinks about that. And then that'll also be a time where we can provide that survey again and hopefully get some good input. So I believe the community listening sessions are going to be hosted either in, I believe in March and April. And we don't have dates yet or times yet for that, but one will definitely be hosted at the county, and we will definitely be hosting at the county offices, and one will definitely be hosted in Aurora as well. After those kind of preliminary community engagement activities have wrapped up at the end of April, we are going to be getting into a little bit more in the weeds of climate action planning team engagement. So we currently are envisioning smaller stakeholder groups to have roundtable discussions for those who are experts in different subjects within climate change issues. So for example, that would look like folks who are concerned about transportation can go to a roundtable discussion to talk about different climate change issues that pertain to transportation. They would also be talking about solutions and brainstorming ideas for how to combat those issues. And then brainstorming who can be involved to be able to implement those solutions. So that's kind of what we see as the climate action planning team engagement. And we are looking for people to be involved with that. And you don't have to be an expert in any particular field to participate. We do want different perspectives involved with different subjects. So I believe like transportation, agriculture, energy, renewable energy. We'll have a bunch of different smaller stakeholder engagement discussions, and we want folks with different perspectives to be involved in each of those. And then continuing with the timeline for the plan, after those kind of more intimate discussions have been had, we will hopefully have information and data to create a draft climate action plan. So we will hopefully be developing that sometime between August to September this year. After that, we would definitely encourage and seek engagement from the community on that draft, and then create implementation support tools after that plan, after we've gotten feedback on the draft. And then we are hoping to finalize the climate action plan by November of this year. So how can you get involved if you would like to be? We currently, like I said, we're putting out a survey on climate action for Kane County. I have some flyers up at the front if you want to grab one. There's a website where you can click on that and it'll take you right to the survey. The survey is definitely going to give us a lot of information, so I would encourage you to fill that out if you're interested. It should take about 7 to 8 minutes of your time. Spread the word and pass around the flyers that I brought today. That's a great way to spread awareness about the plan happening. Like I said, we are looking for folks to give a little bit more of their time to be part of those smaller group discussions when the time comes. So if you're interested in participating in the climate action team, we do have an application for that, which will just give us information on what in particular what group you'd like to be in and what kind of experiences you've had, just so we can kind of split up different perspectives within whatever groups will be created. And then the community listening sessions we plan to host in March and April. So if you're available and you can find a way to get to those, I believe we should also have them online too. So they will be accessible. So being involved with all of those actions. I also included a QR code if anyone wants to try. You can take a photo of that and it'll take you right to the survey, but that's also on the flyer too. And I'm hoping to, I can send everybody an email with the survey as well, but here's my contact information. If you'd like to email me, ask me any questions, or if you just have some feedback that you'd like to share. This is a really exciting project, and it's a new sustainability initiative that the county is embarking on. So we are welcoming all feedback at this time. So if there are any questions, I will take them now. Thank you.
Good. I see 3 hands. Miss Design.
Okay, I always have questions. So the group from Minnesota that's going to be doing the study, are they going to break out the information that they glean from the study based overall, or will they be doing like Aurora specific and Batavia specific, or how's that going to work? And also, are they going to be looking at health issues and how the, not just flooding and those kind of things, but how the climate and the pollution is affecting people's health?
That's a great question. So the question was, I'll answer the first one. Is the consultant going to break out the data analyses for different municipalities? So like Aurora would have its own data, and then City of Elgin would have its own data, and then will all public health also be included within that analysis and how air pollution affects people. Is that correct? So our hope is that with this plan, a municipality can take the end deliverable and implement that in their community. So we don't want to be focusing on providing a greenhouse gas inventory for each of our municipalities because it would take a lot of time, it would take a lot of resources and definitely slow down the creation of this plan. And the hope is that we'll be able to provide tools to our municipalities to be able to do their own data analysis in hopefully some kind of online platform or walk them through a program to be able to do that on their own, provide recommendations as to how they can do that. But we did talk about whether or not we wanted to do an in-depth greenhouse gas inventory for the entire county. And that would have been taken a lot more time. And we wanted to focus on more of a general approach and kind of have the data be for the region. So there will not be broken out data for Aurora or City of Elgin or St. Charles or any other municipality. The goal is to look at the region as a whole and figure out maybe there's a huge portion of greenhouse gas emissions coming from buildings, or maybe it's transportation, or in also looking at what the agricultural contribution looks like. And then figuring out, where that will apply with the municipalities. I think that will come into play. The second question, public health and air pollution definitely will be looked at, and I think that will definitely be an outcome and discussion that will be a part of the plan. Kane County does have a health department who does a lot of outreach and surveys and already has a lot of information. So we're hoping to engage with them and include them in this, in those stakeholder groups that are kind of small in discussion, and use their expertise to inform us on what are those main issues going on with air pollution, how can we incorporate them into this plan, how can we make a goal that's going to be feasible for different municipalities. So yes,
And not just air pollution, but
public health as a whole.
yeah,
Mhm.
with like the flooding, with the water, contamination and stuff like that. I just want to know if the Kane County Public Health Department or this study, whatever, was going to be tracking any changes in what they see with public health.
I think public health data should be included in that CMAP data. But we're pretty much only using the regional data that's been published by CMAP. And we do have other sources of information that will come from the Department of Environment and Water Resources. Will have data sources for flooding. But the county does have a stormwater management plan already, and also a natural hazard mitigation plan that's currently being updated. So those two plans are already focusing on flooding and flooding mitigation. So because we have those two plans kind of broken out, we're gonna not totally steer away from those two topics, but include them as much as we can and focus on other areas, if that makes sense. Thank you.
I have a question. You said that you're going to look at doing model ordinances that municipalities can use.
Mm-hmm.
Will one of those ordinances be that all new construction, whether it's single family, multifamily, warehouse, institutional, covers any new construction, be solar ready when it's built?
Well, so that's a great question. The question was, will potential model ordinances include include being solar ready, any kind of new construction being solar ready. Kane County is Soul Smart designated level bronze. So that may already, I don't know if that's in there, that it's solar ready, but that's a great question. So I believe those small group discussions that will include our development department staff and also folks who work throughout the county on development, construction, so developers, architects, folks who are investing in new buildings. We want to include them in the discussion and talk about potentially having buildings being solar ready and understanding, is that going to be feasible? Is that wanted by Kane County representatives? So I think that those type of a model ordinance like that could potentially arise from the conversation, but we're looking for those answers from the community. Does that make sense? Dave?
So the answer is maybe.
Yes. The answer is maybe.
Maybe. And
Yes.
it's my understanding that it does add an expense to new construction.
Mhm.
However, it's far less expensive to do it when you're constructing the building than to do it 5 years down the road.
Mhm.
And we'll add that idea to the list.
Thank you.
As long as yours, Donna.
One more note on that too, that I've kind of been navigating lately. Another project separately that I'm working on is an EV ready designation for Kane County. And the county did participate in the Soul Smart designation before I was there, so I'm kind of learning about how that was done. And at the county level, because we have jurisdiction over unincorporated Kane County, there are certain areas where the county does not have authority or jurisdiction to make any changes according to certain Illinois codes. So I am learning, especially with new construction, that there are some barriers with that. So I think that that's going to come up too in the discussions, and hopefully we will also have some state representatives incorporated into our conversations to be able to talk about that and talk about those challenges and how we overcome them. So that's a great question. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Do you work with, Fermilab is a large portion of Kane County, and they are under federal administration. But I have had the feeling in the past that the Fermilab administrators work closely with Kane County on some areas of particularly environmental areas. Do you know about that? And because of the largeness of their effect on our community, would the county be working with them in this kind of planning?
The question was, will the county be working with Fermilab representatives because they have a large environmental impact on the area? I am not very familiar with any kind of engagement with Fermilab. I have spoken to somebody who currently works there who used to work at Kane County in my position as sustainability coordinator. So we do have contacts, and that is a great suggestion for somebody that I should reach out to be a part of this group. So I can definitely make sure that we have a representative as a part of this plan. That's a great point. But currently, I do not work directly with Fermilab on any kind of initiatives.
Go ahead.
First of all, thank you for your enthusiasm. What I'm going to say now may sound critical, and so I want to temper what I say by letting you know how much I appreciate your enthusiasm. But what I heard was that the first part, there is no plan right now, that through March, assessments will be made by this pale blue dot company, pulling data together. And then there's going to be community engagement, which sounds to me like it's just pulling people in together at blue sky and, oh my, what can we do with this data? And then I hear climate plan team engagement for stakeholders. In the beginning of your program, you had listed those areas, facilities and transportation and all of that, who I assume are going to be the stakeholders. And then after that, it says finalize the climate action plan. When does the action plan actually get to be created? And is it a matter of just listening to what people want or suggest, such as the suggestions today? Or is there an overall scheme that's even thought of right now?
That's a great question, thank you. So the question is there a current plan right now, and kind of an overall vision for what the outcome and goal will look like? And how eventually will that plan be implemented and when?
I think that's pretty good, yeah.
Okay, great, perfect. So you're correct. There is not currently a plan right now. What we're working off of is the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus has that climate action plan that they've published, and it has a lot of high level action. So for example, some of you were looking at that we kind of had, so one of the objectives was to, within the renewable energy category, pursue renewable energy opportunities for residents. And then within that category and objective, they have, they give you kind of like a general idea of how much is that going to cost, how much time is it going to take for that to be implemented. And when we were looking at just that one objective within the goal, or within the whole plan itself, which there's like a ton of different objectives, like over 100 within the plan. We were thinking that that's something that Kane County has a current program in. So we have, the county has an electric aggregation program for unincorporated residents, and they receive green power as a part of that program. And the county has been participating in that program for a couple of years. We have a consultant to go out to bid for each new contract term. And so we have resources, we have tools, and we understand how to navigate that one particular goal. But a municipality that might not have a staff person who works in sustainability or a department that will focus on that might be unsure of how to achieve that goal. So the hope is that we can create an end deliverable with this plan, and create kind of like a toolkit as to how should a person who is at a local government or at is a leader at a local organization or a local commission and wants to achieve a particular goal, how can they do that? Where can they go for resources? What website will they find where other people have done the exact same thing? We want to be able to provide all that information within this plan. And then the hope is that that person, that stakeholder, can kind of take all those resources and actually implement them and achieve the goal. So the county is hoping to create a toolkit within the plan, and then the county would implement its own plan at the county level. Per se. So the county would do, so for example, once the plan was created, Kane County would do a greenhouse gas inventory of all of our facilities, and understand where do we have the most emissions coming from within our facilities, in our buildings, and where can we work to make those more sustainable. Did I answer? And when will that happen?
Well, according to your plan by November 23rd.
Yes, yes. So our hope is to have this kind of a more detailed vision and all of these resources put together in like a nice package ready to go by November of this year. And that's a huge undertaking. So it's definitely possible that, that might get pushed back a little bit. But the hope is with that community engagement, what we're hoping to do is engage with our municipalities who are interested in sustainability and those who are not interested in sustainability, hopefully, so that we can start those conversations, start those relationships, and understand what kind of climate issues are they facing, and where and how can we as the county be helpful in providing them with tools and resources for goals and solutions for those problems. That's kind of the hope in what we want to create. Yes, but it's all kind of still loose because we haven't embarked on any of the community engagement yet. But we really want to engage with people and understand how can we provide the best tools coming from the county.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Very quick. Please.
Are you on social media, and is there any plan to use social media to spread the word?
The question was, is the county on social media, and are you planning to use social media to spread the word? That's a great question. The answer is yes. So this is actually the first event where I am announcing the plan. But on Thursday, our communications, our public information officer is going to be putting out all of the communications we have online. So that includes the Kane County Connects newsletter and the social media platforms. And I do also have contacts with some local organizations and also some Kane County municipal sustainability staff. So I'm planning to send out all the information to them and ask that they share with their networks. I'm also doing a lot of outreach to reach other people who I don't currently have contacts with, municipalities, organizations, different groups and different types of people to make sure that we get the word out. So I'm gonna try my best, but if there are any contacts or anybody in the audience who wants to send me a contact to send out all this information, please do share that with me. I would so appreciate that. But yes, we will be on social media promoting the survey, I think through May, just so we can collect as much data as possible. But we will continuously be pushing out the plan and how everything is going over social media and our communications networks. Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to say I attended the rollout of the state of Illinois updated water plan last October, I think it was. Or September, I don't know, it was last fall sometime. But anyway, what you just presented as your timeline, your plan, your desired outcome, it sounds very similar to what they were saying with the water plan. You know, they want the same thing, you know, get all the resources in one place so that any builder or any developer or anybody can just go there and everything is there that they need in order to proceed. However, one of the biggest barriers to all of that is that there's lots of areas that need to be researched. You know, so that was their number one funding issue, was getting, now that they have a plan, getting funding for the research that they need to do in order to, provide these resources, so on. So my question to you is, are you going to be interfacing with that IDNR and sharing your research results with them so that you can get linked into their network and vice versa? Because otherwise we're just doing double duty with taxpayer money.
That's a great question. So the question was, are we going to partner with IDNR and also potentially other organizations to share data, just so we're not, because the IDNR's water plan looks very similar to ours in terms of the goals and what we like to get out of the plan. That's a great suggestion. Thank you. I would imagine, yes, all the information and research will be shared online and be public information and knowledge. It'll be posted on our website, but I think what's gonna help is making those connections and connecting us to organizations, to be able to share that data. Because when we were doing research about what other climate action plans are out there, like, we didn't know of any. But doing research online helps in searching for those things and talking to other folks who work in the industry, and in the field definitely helps to make those connections. But yeah, that's a great point. Sharing that information and data is going to be imperative for all of us to collaborate throughout the region as a whole.
So we've been concentrating mostly on partnering with the municipalities.
Mhm.
So you're taking us up to a new level then.
Yeah.
Why not?
And, yeah,
Why not?
which is something I've had conversations with too. I mean, I've been talking with folks who are at Springfield, with folks who work for, the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, CMAP, because they do a ton of data and data sharing, for the region as well.
If nothing else, when this all compiled and you have the data available in Kane County, that state water plan, IDNR link should be in your information, so that anybody that wants to go there, could go there.
Yeah.
And, sharing the information with them so they could use it for part of their research.
We're also hoping that we can get the municipalities of King County to buy in to the climate action plan and adopt it in their own ways. And that maybe this will become something that other counties will want to use in the future. So we can have many levels. And then we're going to send it to Joe Biden. Any other questions? Okay. One more.
Do you, when the League of Women Voters in Batavia was trying to get our action on recycling, this was 1994 through 1998, we went to the city council and they said, "Thank you very much, ladies. Next." But it took a lot of work, but one of our main resources was the children and the youth in our community who very enthusiastically responded to their parents and said, "This is something we need to do." And we also went through the churches. And I know that there are active church organizations that are involved in climate. They're concerned about the climate. And also at the community colleges, Elgin Community College and Levancy Community College, there are young students there who are very depressed about the inaction that the old people are doing about climate change. And so I'm encouraging you to use the young people as much as you can in implementing this and just spreading the word that it's happening. And if the league, anyway, that was the young people were a big help in getting the old people to pay attention, especially the old elected people who tend to say, "Oh, great idea, thank you," and then, it just sits there. It took us 5 years of hard work to get our recycling plan started, but through the encouraging words of the young people to the old people, it did go through.
Thank you for sharing that. And that is something that has been on our minds as well, connecting with universities, with colleges, and also with schools, and developing relations, especially like since I started with the county. We've talked a lot about within my department of even just making contacts and relationships with local schools to be able to talk about recycling and sustainability and get in the classroom and find those teachers who are going to be kind of like our champions. So that's been a focus of our department and something that we are working on, and my colleagues are working on as well. So that will definitely, we'll definitely hope to get those voices involved as well.
Good.